There's a disturbing and troubling link we're up against too. Punks are the canaries in the coal mine of gentrification. The 309 house used to face an empty lot across the street, the side yard of a Black-owned business, a soul food restaurant, long abandoned, that was for a while occasionally used by train-hopping kids as a squat or drug house. The house has been renovated in the past couple of years and is now a pleasant-looking private residence with plants on the porch, and the empty sandlot that was once its parking lot is now home to 3 brand new 2-story condos. The 311 house, the 309 house's only neighbor, was also Black-owned until recently, until it sold to a white contractor who renovated it and flipped it for nearly 3 times his investment. It is important that we be aware during the course of this project the nature of gentrification to force out marginalized communities and to remember our context within these systems. We must incorporate into our mission all stories which contribute to the truth of the history of the house and neighborhood. To succeed in saving the 309 house would be a victory not only for us, but for punks everywhere, and for resistance and the liberation of all people. For punk is, at its core, an anti-establishment humanitarian effort which seeks to challenge and dismantle all systems of oppression: racism, sexism, ableism, classism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, and all forms of bigotry.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure you can hear me. Since the beginning of this project, we've been interested in creating authentic ways to share our Pensacola punk history. We are raising awareness about 309, fundraising in person at events like this through crowdfunding, social media, and as an artist collective, participating in art exhibitions. So when the call for the mural project in our local town hit the radar, we had instant inspiration. This water tower, if you've ever lived in or visited Pensacola, your eyes landed on this water tower at some point. It was erected downtown and loomed over our library, and still does. From the late 1980s to very recently, many punks lived and worked in downtown, and it was once affordable. We biked the streets that fell in the shadow of this tower. The water tower was a landmark that was burned into our retinas. It loomed over our neighborhood and could be seen from several points of the city. We almost ignored it as it was built into our daily landscape. Despite its industrial purpose, however, this image became a landmark of our home. This bike is a pipe bomb. Our local band wrote a song called Memoirs from the Secret Spot, and it made the water tower famous. Punks screamed the lyrics in their bedrooms. Can you hear it? And then, Scotty Potty, this one right here, and Aaron Commonbus used an image of the water tower engulfed in flames as the logo for their bootleg zine imprint. Before we knew it, a tattoo was born. Famous Gabe drew the stencil and immediately placed it on eagerly awaiting punks. Scotty was one of the first in line. Jen Knight, Aaron Commonbus, and Remo D also got the tattoo the same day. Gabe is still inking that tattoo, and so is Scott Alvarez, who was also in the previous photo. Ali Rudabash is now the go-to girl if you want a fresh take on that tower. The water tower was inked into the skin of many of our friends. It became a mark of solidarity and a mark of family. And in an effort to couple awareness about our project and reunite our community that had spread across the United States and beyond, we put out a call to our people via word of mouth and Instagram and asked them to send us pictures of their tattoos. The images poured in, and they were beautiful. Each tattoo was as unique as the person who donned them. Some were in some alley spots. I think that one's an armpit tat. It's a brave soul for that one. Some were brand new, fresh as a daisy. Others not so much. Been around for a while. But we had this fresh palette from which to work and all of this inspiration. And me being an art nerd and an art teacher, I was interested in the photographs taken by water towers by Bernd and Hellebecker. And we took some formal cues from the grid that they used to display the images of their water towers. So we started putting them together, making stencils, and eventually came to this mural. For the weekend that we were allotted to paint the mural, we all worked together. Even Scotty's son Des helped paint. And we took turns, we hung out in the community, and we spent time just sharing our story with the local community, and it was really amazing how well received it was. And we also got to work with other artists in the community as well. And Famous Gabe, the man who gave us the tattoo stencil, how many years ago? 25 years ago, was actually painting on the other side of our same cube. And when he saw it completed, he actually came to us and cried. It was very, very, very sweet. We dedicated the mural to Steve motherfucking Winfrey. He is one of our older punks that kind of fell away from the scene for a while, went off and had some kids, as sometimes that happens, and came back with them when they were teenagers, and he's known for feeding local punks for free. He's very loved by the punk scene, plus he booked GBH, so that didn't suck. And he's a great guy. He's now in late stages of MS, hence the dedication. So we think about him often. Currently, the mural is still standing in Pensacola. It was placed behind the T.T. Wentworth Museum. And in late July, we're helping the Wentworth Gallery or Wentworth Museum organize an exhibition of local punk ephemera sourced directly from our scene. And selections from our 309 archive will also be included in the exhibition. And currently, what we're doing now, I think I'm stuck. What we're thinking about now, what we're trying to do now in order to raise some more awareness. Like I said, we have a lot of money to raise by the summer, so we are in full force. And if you want help, we're asking all of our punk friends from all over the country, all over the world, to set up some sort of show and certainly pay the bands first. And if there's anything left over to help us move forward in this dream, we can send you press packets and help you make that happen. And lastly, I think we finally killed my computer with this. It's not going any further. But lastly, it was just a thank you slide. So I'll just verbally say thank you for listening to our story, for being here with us, and letting us share this with you. And again, we are 309 Punk Museum Project, and we're open for questions. Yeah. Yay, we got it.
So, I know this is a little atypical for a presentation, just the way that we set this up. So yeah, just want to see if y'all have any questions. But first, I was going to ask both of y'all a question. So when you first heard about the project, did you think that this was even possible?
The project itself?
Yeah, buying the house. Buying the house. I mean, you lived there.
I did. I lived there for 3 years. To be honest, I had a lot of mixed feelings when you first came to me about this because, like, the circumstances of me moving out were, like, by that point, and this was, at this point, maybe, like, 5 years ago, the house was already so decrepit and falling apart. Like, there were holes in the floor that you could just see the ground underneath. The, like, toilet was almost falling through the bathroom. Then, it's only gotten worse. And I kind of knew that the landlords were just biding their time. I guess, like, when I left, I kind of experienced a form of the house's death. and that's where I had left it in my mind. And just there was something about the idea of buying it and making it like a permanent thing that I had to go back and like get used to the idea of it having more of an active role in our community, which, I mean, like I said in my talk, it's just so well suited for our community. It's like, it has such a unique layout and so much big open space. And people have worked really hard over the years to build in like loft beds and workbenches to make even more better use of that space. But it was a lot of conflicts, and there was a lot of conflict, and especially like talking about putting an archive in, and especially when we were more attached to the word museum. I think there were a lot of issues that came up for me that we talked about, of like keeping it a punk house in a residence, and then, but also opening it up to this public of people who would just be coming in and wandering in and being like, oh, this is so quaint, it's so nice, and wondering if that would do punks a disservice. So I don't know, that's not a direct answer. It was a complicated issue. Yeah, that's how I felt about it.
How about you, Beth?
Well, I had mixed feelings too. Is that on? Okay. But the being a sculptor and trained in woodworking and all that stuff, like the physical damage of the house, like it's scary, but it's not terrifying. So that part didn't like freak me out so much. And I never lived at 309, but I lived at a sister punk house called Joggling Joint. And just the fact that I was living there and got the opportunity to experience what how punk houses serve the community, and certainly how it helped me grow as an individual and find support. I just felt like it was a wonderful opportunity to jump in and definitely see if we can make it happen. I mean, I still don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope it does. And it both thrills me and terrifies me at the same time to think about the gravity of what the amount of work we're going to need to put into it. Taking volunteers, by the way. Yeah, but I'm like Eliza. I've got a mixed bag of emotions, but for the most part, every day I wake up and choose this. And that's my definition of love, actually. You should kind of wake up and choose your partner every day. And if you can't, then that means it's time to move on while I'm still choosing this. And that feels really good. So I feel pretty confident in that way.
Yeah. Right. What about y'all? Yes, sir.
With the gentrification of the neighborhood, do you have any concerns that the city may hinder your plans when they find out that what you're wanting to do? Like from my own experience in my hometown, if I had this plan and I took that to the city they would find about 100 different ways to shut me down.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've planned it ahead of time or if you have any connections in the city, but that would worry me if I was in your position.
Yeah.
We've definitely come to the conclusion that having an opening museum that has hours that opens and closes just can't function, which is why the artist in residence idea or path makes a little bit more sense. We can still have parties, art openings, shows, but we don't have to have parking spaces and business hours, and we don't have to rezone the property.
I mean, I imagine the city has an inkling of your plans, and I can't imagine that they loved your use of that space all these years. I mean,
Actually, they're not upset.
Yeah,
it falls into a weird. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird gray area. Like definitely there has been historically kickback in the neighborhood. The East Hill Neighborhood Association and stuff like that. But also we have kind of gotten a pass too in a weird way. I mean, even when I was booking shows there, like we would get complaints from the neighbors about noise ordinance, and the cops would just show up and be like, hey, somebody called, so we had to come out here. Have a great night, and it was sort of, I actually had the misfortune of having to leave the cops through the house one time too, and it was like, it's a couple of lady cops, and they were like, they were like, oh, this isn't nearly as bad as we thought it would be, you know, like it had a reputation, I guess, in the precinct, but also we got a selfie with the bear, so we're pretty sure it's city endorsed.
Yeah, I think with the mayor's kind of, at least he's verbally said he's down with this. As soon as anybody lets it get out or lets it go any further, then I'm sure he'll change his story, because he changes his story all the time. But, you know, we got a picture with him. But besides that, though, the neighborhood association, who at one time actually were actively trying to kick us out when I was living there. Maybe it was because I was living there. But they were actively trying to kick us out in different ways. We had this one person who lived a few blocks down who was constantly given ordinance or code violations and that kind of stuff. And I guess she moved. You know, so after she moved, then some of the issues became less and less. So with the exception of one or two people in the neighborhood, the support has been a little surprising for it, and it's definitely gotten a lot of press. If you Google it, there's a number of news articles. It's a TV station thing that came on one of the local TV channels. They did a story about it, and it was a little surprising to see that we weren't getting the pushback, and even got support tacitly, at least. You know, we got support from the neighborhood association to actually go ahead with it. So it's cool, you know, but then it also makes us wonder, it's like, so do we just become, you know, what we hated, you know, at the same time, you know, which is also that big pushback with the idea of having, you know, a punk museum or anything like that, because it moves against everything that punk is. Just like nearly every single panel that I've heard since I've been here is constantly saying the same thing. It's like, is it really punk to have an archive, or is it really punk to do this? But almost every punk I know has a file, you know, has some kind of box or has something with all those flyers. So all those flyers, all those old tapes and all that stuff. So we assume that everybody is saving that stuff for a reason, you know, so I think everybody, deep down their hearts, even though we know it's wrong, we also know it's right too. And maybe, and also too, I think as far as the pushback with the city. It doesn't hurt that we're all, you know, I'm 45 now, you know, so you're a little more threatening when you're 19 and 20. When you're 45, you know, I work at the university, Valerie works at the university, you know, so we get a little bit of a pass, you know, with that stuff too. So.
But we hear what you're saying, absolutely, and we
I
are
would
thinking
assume
about
that
it.
the building permit guy would come out and, you know, I grew up in a very conservative city, and that there'd be 100 ways to make it not happen that you wouldn't think it was happening. It was not happening. And, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Can't wait.
Any other questions?
Or comments?
No. Well, I got one for you then, Valerie. Where did, since we got a few minutes, you know, where did you get the idea for because it was your idea with the painting, with the murals and all that, you know, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Essentially, just because I'm an artist, I'm a wee bit like sensitive, and I get really interested in notions of community in a way that means something to me. I didn't have the water tower tattoo, but pretty much everyone I hung out with and loved did. And so for me, it just made total sense that would be the image on the mural. I never had any other idea. I just saw a mural and thought, yeah, we're gonna do that. That's gonna happen. And I passed it by these two, and they were down to try, and maybe a little skeptical of like, what the hell is that gonna look like? I don't know, but they let me play with it for a little while, and I brought a couple of sketches through, and we had a fun time picking color palettes. We almost went pink, we almost went blue, I almost went black and blue, but we landed on something nice. But for the most part, just there was something beautiful about everybody having this like stamp, and actually most of them are, you know, in the traditional sense, relatively ugly. You know, they're kind of like scraggly little line drawings that usually gave people intoxicated somewhere on a porch, not in, you know, clean conditions. So like, sort of amazing that they are as beautiful to me as they are. But I just see them as real honest marks of family, and mainly with people who had to build their own families. So, you know, I see them as much more than drawings.
Yeah, there's maybe around well over 30 people,
Well over 30.
you know, who have those tattoos. You know, so just to have like a lot of people have that one thing was it was pretty powerful. You know, to see the first other people besides us, you know, who got them. People I don't know, you know, who have them. And that's kind of weird to see something that you drew on a whim, you know, become something big. Yes, ma'am.
Would you ever consider, you know, having like a pop-up museum? Because like there's like a lot of those around LA, and like they kind of gain like some revenue from like, you know, being like museums that just like pop up out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
they're very specialized. Or like, have you ever considered donating your archives to like pop culture museums? Or, like,
Well, if we can't get our own museum, we're probably gonna have to consider that for sure. But the pop-up thing is real, and the Pensacola Museum of Art in Pensacola has offered us pop-up opportunities too, and as well as the TT Wentworth. But we've definitely not thought about taking it on the road. That's a great idea.
Yeah, the Wentworth Museum is the state museum for one of the state museums in Florida, and yeah, they're doing an exhibit on Pensacola punk, and there's going to be a wall of it's going to be with all of the stuff that we're doing. So it's interesting. It's kind of weird whenever they came and talked to us about it, and they were asking for us, they're asking our advice and asking about what to do here, and just, you know, we're walking out there and be like, "Are you asking us this?" You know, just to bring us into this weird group, but it's pretty neat that, you know, that they're doing that. So I mean, those are great ideas to be able to, you know, to further it, you know, be able to get it out there, which is kind of like what we're doing right here too. You know, so this same show we're gonna bring on the road, or we'll do this in various ways to whoever will listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing a pop-up shop, and you know, what we're up against in Pensacola is that there are just not very many spaces. Or before we started this project, I thought that there were not very many spaces who would be interested in hosting something like that, because, like I said, we would definitely want to do it in the downtown area, because Pensacola is pretty much just downtown, and then the rest is urban sprawl, and then way on the other side of that is the university, and it's all just disconnected. But we would definitely want to do an event like that in downtown Pensacola, and there just aren't a lot of like types of businesses that would support that. So, but it was really cool, because when we started getting out there in the world and having these conversations about this project, all of a sudden it was like the Pensacola Museum of Art was interested, and the TT Wentworth Museum was interested, and there's an archive downtown called Voices, you know, and we're seeing all of like these people come out of the woodwork to support our project in a way that really surprised me.
Yeah.
And even with the archive too, trying to get our stuff, the benefit of having our archive is like what a lot of people have talked about. There's a panel right before that was talking about DIY archive here in LA, in East LA, and Southeast LA, and it was, you know, one of the discussions was just that, you know, again, the same thing we talked about, you know, about like, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? And also too, I mean, we know our stuff better than the people, you know, over at the archive at the university or other places, and to be able to, the benefit of having all that stuff in, you know, in the city where all of it's happening is you know, pretty important. So if it left Pensacola, you know, then that's I think it would be a loss for Pensacola, and I think a lot of people probably wouldn't even let it leave the city. But I'm also skeptical of what the university would do with it, even though we want their money and we certainly enjoy their willingness to help us out with this too. So again, it, you know, goes back and forth with
But
that.
we don't want their control over it either.
Yeah.
So there's a limit to how much money we, you know, or a limit to any involvement with the university.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about in the speech too, is towards the end, you know, was just saying that we appreciate the support from the institutions and the establishments, you know, and we think that there's a place between this, and especially in a place like Florida and a lot of places in southern cities, you know, or southern places in general, but across the country, a lot of these institutions of higher education are increasingly under attack. And I mean, it's amazing that this is here, you know, over in West Florida, or in LA, but you know, with us in West Florida, you know, all you need is have one kind of crazy controversy, and then the governor gets mad and then cuts all the funding for anything like this. You know, maybe if he finds out we're here, you know, then they'll cut the funding. But it's, yeah, so it's a tightrope that we end up walking on quite often. But yeah, see, we're trying. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're out of time, so really appreciate y'all coming out and checking this idea out. We have a website, you can Google us, you can ask for us. I got some comic buses back there for sale too. And I got a hat if you want to flip that over and then donate $300,000.
or if you want to set up a show in your hometown for our 309 March 9th Day of Solidarity.
You get it, third month.